Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Montlake, but you can call me Monty, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the next episode of Pathfinders. The Pathfinder podcast is all about the journeys we take in business and in our life. It's about the fact that the destination is not the be-all and end-all. It's the paths we take along the way that is a real journey. It is this that defines us and makes us who we are today. I've always loved talking to people, and in doing so over the years, and especially so recently, have found that many have remarkable stories to tell. Stories that we can all learn from and relate to, that will make you look differently at that person when you learn about their real journey rather than the one we all assume. So I'm setting out to meet real people who have inspired me, both within the mortgage, property and finance industry, as well as outside it, to hear their stories and learn from the paths they have taken, the successes and failures that have led to them becoming who they are today. We all have a story to tell, and perhaps their story will resonate with you and make you realise that you are never alone. We are all pathfinders finding our way in the world. Today's guest is someone who I was immediately drawn to upon first meeting, and a person who exudes two of the values that I look for most in people: authenticity and passion. Some may see her as something of an overnight sensation, such as been the meteoric rise of her company, The Mortgage Mum, in such a relatively short space of time. But as ever, the truth may be something different. Sarah Tucker is not your average mortgage broker either, having achieved the rarest of feats by getting not one, but 4 turns on The Voice in 2019. And anyone who's heard her singing knows that she has a very special gift. Although her journey to pop superstardom did not pan out as planned, not yet anyway, as a busy working mum, Sarah found her way back into the mortgage industry and founded The Mortgage Mum after seeing that women like herself, who needed flexibility in a work family that understands each other, did not have the choices that they needed. She believes that balance is a key to happiness and promotes self-development, self-care and spirituality. I'm sure her story will be of interest to you. This is the Pathfinder podcast. May the path you choose be the right one for you. Sarah.
Hello.
The legendary Sarah Tucker.
Such a lovely intro.
Oh, thank you.
So nice.
I've only done it 17,000 times to try and get it right. I should have memorised it, shouldn't I?
I
welcome to my rather cold, drafty den, but it's lovely. I like this little setup.
It is lovely. It's nice doing it face to face.
It is.
I always do it behind a screen at home.
Yeah, I've done loads behind a screen, and I just find sometimes you can't take cues from each other as much.
No, especially if it glitches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it does.
We've had
tend
a few
to
glitches.
do. Yeah.
We love a glitch. So, Pathfinders.
Yes.
Really interested in your story, how you became who you are today.
Yeah.
Who is the real Sarah Tucker?
Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, how are you?
I'm good.
What's going on at the moment?
I'm good. I am nearly 6 months pregnant.
Yes, I can see.
It's nearly Christmas. It's busy. The mortgage market requires a lot of leadership at the minute, I think, to navigate through, what's now been a very quiet time for brokers, considering how busy they've been. But I'm good. I'm in a good space myself, which is nice.
Good. Well, you look blooming, I think is a word
you.
when someone's pregnant.
Yeah.
So you're due in when? March?
End of March, yeah.
And that's your third
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, big age gap though. So I've got 2 helpers, 6 and 9. My son, 6.
Are they really excited?
9. Oh, they're so excited. They were begging me for a baby start of this year. And we were like, no, what about a dog? They were like, no, we really want a baby. It'd be so cute to have a baby around the house. And I was one of 3 growing up.
Right, okay.
And when I was 9, my brother was born and Sienna's 9. Yeah. So I remember that feeling of knowing you were going to get a little baby in the house. You will have a proper
helper there.
I loved it. I was like, that's how I learned how to be a mum. Like, I really learned the ropes when my brother was born and saw how you change a nappy and how you comfort a little one and how you give them advice when they're 5. So I was always really comfortable around kids because of that. So I'm excited for them and me.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So what's a typical day in the life of Sarah Tucker like now?
Every day is different. There is no like normal day anymore. That's what I find. I think when you're leading, there isn't a normal day. It's not like when I was breaking. But I try and pick up the kids a few times a week from school. That's still really important to me. I'm always at the school things, like the nativity or been Christmas decoration morning last week. So they kind of navigate my week, and there's certain non-negotiables for me as a person, like my self-care stuff that go in once a month. And then around that, I run the business morning, noon and night, basically. My commitments are basically my family and my business and myself squeezed in there.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you're very organised then?
Have to
be.
Are
you a list maker?
I am a spreadsheet obsessed list maker. Yes. Yeah, you have to be. As a mum, you have to be anyway, especially around Christmas. As a business owner, you 100% have to be. So, yeah, it works for me, but I never get to the end of the list, Monty. It drives me mad. One day I'd love to just have everything done, but I don't think it's ever going to happen.
No, I make a lot of lists.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just lose the lists.
Yeah.
I'm a big list loser.
Oh, you actually lose
I make
it?
a lot of lists and then I just forget
I thought you
about
meant
the
like
list.
it's a strategic decision.
No,
lose the list.
I'm beginning to think it is a strategic decision.
Maybe it works for you.
Not sure it does. But anyway, so, as you know, really interested in your journey and how you got where you are today. But one thing that strikes me with you, as it did with my last guest, Ying, is your very essence seems to come from deep held beliefs around family and its importance.
Yes.
Where does that come from? Is that from your family background and growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. I had an amazing childhood. I have amazing parents. My family was probably the biggest thing I was proud of growing up, and my identity has been wrapped around it ever since. So, yeah, I think it is the one constant in your life. If you're blessed with a family that loves you and supports you, because not everybody is.
Yeah.
Some people have to create their family, but I was very lucky and still am. And so I want that for my kids. I want them to think about me the way I think about my parents and grandparents and put my own spin on it. So, yeah, everything is around family. And when they're proud of me, that drives me.
Yeah.
That drives me.
So what were you like as little Sarah?
A Disney princess, basically.
Do you know, that really doesn't surprise me at all.
I was a good girl.
Yeah.
I loved Disney. I was a romantic from the second I found out about the concept of love. I was very expressive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember those little China cards you used to get where they were like a China ornament but a card, and I remember my dad saying, write something nice for mummy in there, and I couldn't fit it in because it's so small. But I'd write elaborate birthday cards, I still do, to people.
Yeah.
And it really offended me that people didn't do it back. So I've learned as an adult, like that expressiveness isn't necessarily normal, but it came really naturally to me. But that's because my dad particularly was so expressive. He still is, tells us how proud he is all the time. Elaborately explains to us why he loves us, why we changed his life. And so I just think it's normal. But actually growing up, I realised it's not actually that normal to be like that.
Yeah.
But I was a mini version of what I am now, just I'm less naive now than I was then. And a little bit less Disney. It's been one of the things I've had to undo a little bit.
Yeah.
In order to survive as an adult, because it can create unrealistic expectations and that can then, cause problems really.
So is that something you've actively tempered?
Therapist.
Not everyone's walking around the corner and bursting into song.
No. And I used to think, how do they all know the words? Like, I genuinely was so hooked. I'd be like, how does everyone know the words to join in the moment on the street? I don't understand how they do that. Like, why doesn't anyone do that here? And I used to even think, how comes they haven't got lines in their teeth and I have? Like, they've got one straight. I just took it as reality. Like, that's real. My life feels like that.
That's interesting.
I'm going to find my prince when I'm older.
Yeah.
And now I'm this, you don't need a prince. You can be an independent woman on your own and create your own happiness. So it's bizarre. But a therapist said to me in the last few years, life isn't Disney, Sarah. You need to let it go. And I was like, why? You can just create it. And she's like, it is not serving you to hold this belief. And that was hard. It was hard for me to accept that because I thought, well, that's rubbish. Like, I don't want to live in a world that I can't gloss up.
Yeah.
But ultimately at that time, it just wasn't serving me. It was making me want things that just wasn't real, couldn't happen. So yeah, it shaped me in more ways than one.
Yeah, definitely. And what was so family obviously was very strong.
Yeah.
What about school, friends? How was that and growing up as a teenager, especially with those background thoughts that it's a bit Disney when actually the reality is different?
Well, I think everybody has different childhoods coming to school. Primary school was great. Everybody was a little bit Disney at primary school, right? You're all innocent. And it was at secondary school where that didn't work for me too well. Girls would play games with me and, just silly. I don't know why they do it. I still don't understand it to this day, why people do that as a way of connecting with each other. They talk about other people. They bring you into it. And then they'd come back at me as if I was the one that started it. And obviously I had to learn the lesson, don't talk about people in the first place and you won't get caught out doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wasn't that popular at secondary school. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have an identity. I think lots of people don't, but I struggled with that. And I didn't want to tell my parents because they were so proud of me. I was someone special at home all the time and I wasn't special at school. So that was hard because I'd think, I don't fit in here. I only fit in at home. Even I had my friends. I never was without friends, but I just didn't feel like I fit in. And I still get that now. That is one of my symptoms as an adult. I'm like, I don't fit in here. I'm not one of these people.
That's interesting.
And I have to just go, well, that's okay. That's okay if you don't fit in because you're doing your thing. But I was desperate to fit in as a teenager. I just wanted to be, the it girl.
Yeah.
I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be fancied. And I just wasn't until I was like 16, 17. And by then, damage has been done really.
So what changed when you were 16, 17?
Well, firstly, I had my first ever boyfriend, first ever kiss at 16, which is so late. Like it really is so late. All my friends had multiple experiences.
And when you had the first kiss, did all the birds around you, start singing?
No, I probably lied to myself and said that it did, but no, it didn't. And then I found out I could sing around the same age.
Yeah.
So everything kind of started coming together for me at once. Like I suddenly was, Sarah who sings, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe not even Sarah. They maybe didn't even know my name before that. So it started changing and my confidence grew from both things. And I started carrying myself a little bit differently, but still had my insecurities underneath.
And that, so that's singing then. So I guess it must have been quite difficult when you're not really sure who you are.
Yeah.
And the confidence wanes, and if people are being bitchy around you and everything. And actually, that's quite interesting because you're loved at home, and that makes me worry about actually people today. When because if you're, we all had it at school. Like, be called names, bullied, etc. But at least when I got home, it stops.
Yes.
There's no social media.
Yes.
And now it's just relentless the whole time. Is.
Well, they get on their screens, don't they, when they get in, and then they're
so
still not with you.
If you're being bullied, that bullying continues, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it is. I think that's why boundaries around your phone at home is so important. But also, I do think that the children I see, they are so different to what we were like growing up. They're so aware of themselves. Maybe not the teenagers. They might be getting caught up in it. But certainly my daughter, who's 9, she has values. She has spirituality already. My son has spirituality. They just seem to be more aware of everything. A lot more like mental health is. They know things that we just didn't get talked about when we were younger.
Yeah.
So I think they're a bit more resilient to what's ahead for them as well, and a bit more able to cope with it.
I do worry about it sometimes.
Yeah.
There's one thing knowing more. So yes, my son's 14, and all his friends are having anxiety about something or other. They talk about it openly,
do they?
Which is good and healthy. But on the other hand, it does make me wonder about their resilience. But yeah, I think you're right. I think kids are more resilient. Every generation's different. I think we were quite a naive generation, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we were coming out of the property boom, and there's something around it, I'm sure I've read it, that, we were just growing up in good times.
Yeah.
So that resilience, we didn't need that resilience as much. Whereas if you think what we've all been through recently, COVID, and what our kids have been exposed to, I don't remember anything like that happening when I was younger.
No.
Like no world events really caused any, other than 9/11, but I was a teenager by then.
Well, I'm a bit older than you.
Not that much, are you? I don't know how old you are.
I'm quite a lot older than you.
Are you?
So yeah, that's a whole different podcast. Yeah, we were the sort of the 80s generation, which actually was the threat of nuclear war.
Oh wow.
We were talking about it the other day.
Actually.
Where actually you'd have public announcements and adverts about what to do if there was a nuclear missile going off. So it had its own its own little thing.
That's a world event, definitely.
Anyway, it's not about me at all. So singing is, excuse the pun, obviously in your blood.
Yes. Well done.
And I like that. I like that. That's the only thing I wrote down in preparation, actually. So 17, you said.
Yeah.
Where did that suddenly come from? You didn't know you could sing before, or?
I mean, I used to sing along to everything.
Yeah.
Like our house was Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, the big divas all the time, Mariah Carey. So I used to sing along to those things, and I could sing along to them, firstly. But I didn't know if that meant I could sing or not. I just had that, can I sing? I don't know how I can find out, really, because to find out you got to sing to someone, and they might say, no, you definitely can't sing. How embarrassing that you thought you could. But my teacher heard me sing as part of a group, and he sort of said, I think you've got a good voice. I think you should sing in the talent show. And Pop Idol was like the thing then.
Right, yeah.
So I was obsessed, because to me, that was popularity wrapped in a package. So I was like, that is what I want. Yeah. I need to get on a show like that now, tomorrow. And that will solve all my problems at school. And I say once I did that sort of show at school, definitely people found out I could sing then. But I got my first rejection like within a week. Somebody said, there's a competition in Basildon next week, you should go. And I went, and I sang Alicia Keys' Falling. And now I know I sang it completely in the wrong key, like the whole song.
Right, okay.
It's a hard key that she does it in. And they criticised me, and I couldn't take it. Like I couldn't take the criticism, so I just didn't sing anymore after that. Really? Till I was 21.
Oh, wow. So actually that really knocked your confidence.
Yeah. Well, I'd only just got a bit enough to get on stage. I think I must have done a few. I don't know if I did do any more actually after that. But when I was 21, I had hypnosis done, not for my singing, for something else. And it removed something that had stopped me singing. And so I started edging out and singing to my friends with the door closed, and then the door was open, and then I'd go down to the open mic night, and I just started building confidence. So it started to change from there.
And so when did you feel you were comfortable enough to do the voice? How did that come about?
I did every every TV talent show I did every year from the age of 18. Never got past producers. But it was so weird. I had no confidence to do it anywhere else, but I would take it there. Like I was all or nothing in that respect, because that was the big dream. Yeah. So I somehow found the strength every year to do that audition, to cry over the rejection and then to reapply the following year, because then I'd watch the series and I'd be like, I just had this gut feeling. I mean, I've got my journals from all those years, and I used to just say to myself, that is going to happen to me one day, and you just got to keep going. And every year I thought, this is my year. I feel different this year. I've got longer hair this year, or, you know, that Leona won last year, my voice is similar to hers. So, you know, every year I told myself this was my year. And it wasn't. And then when I hit the age of 23, I was obsessed about meeting Simon Cowell, because all my mates said, you can sing, but I wanted to know, can I actually sing well enough to get on one of these shows? And if anyone's going to tell me, it's going to be him. And when I got to age 23, I actually got to sing in front of him. I got the call. I've got through one round and then the next and then the next, and I got the call, and they was like, we're doing an arena tour this year, so actually you're going to be singing in front of an arena. And I was like, oh, that's better for me than a room, like much better. Yeah. And I got like a standing ovation. He said, they said amazing things. Like I was like Mariah Carey, He came backstage, said, I want to meet you. I want to meet your dad, shake his hand. And I thought, I've done it. I've done it. All these years, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. But it didn't work out. Like I went to boot camp. Boot camp was like school times a million. The most confident, I say that because now I know people can be extroverted and not confident.
Yeah.
But my God, these people were like I'd never been around people like it before.
I can imagine.
It was hard. And you had to share hotel rooms with people that you didn't know. And the first night we stayed, I remember I stayed with the girl and she's like, how you feeling? And I'm like, oh, I'm scared. I've never been away from home before, other than uni, which I lasted 11 weeks. And she said, oh, I'll wake you up in the morning. Like, I'll set my alarm. I'll wake you up in the morning because I had to be downstairs for 5. I wake up at 7. She hadn't woke me up. She packed up her whole suitcase and off she went. And then I thought,
that's bad.
I'm not going to be okay here because I need a friend.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything on my own.
Yeah.
I was in London, which I always have a fear around London. And I just thought, shit, I'm out of my depth here.
Yeah.
People were playing games all week like that.
Yeah.
We got fed in a homeless shelter. We had food poisoning. We were told our songs at like 2 a.m. and up by 6 and dressed. It was like a proper boot camp. And I did not cope with it at all. So I didn't get through. I got to like the last 100 and then I think it was like 3 a.m. We got pulled downstairs, had to wait around, and then
it's crazy.
They were like, we're going to do a dramatic last minute cut, and I got cut. And I didn't get shown either. So they did all this filming at home, at my work, and I didn't get shown. And I was like, what the hell is this? This is meant to be the Disney dream. And my whole family kind of then turned their back on the whole thing. They were like, I don't like this, don't want this for you. So then it just became very different. You know, it just had a different vibe to it.
So, that's really, there's a lot of stuff in there. So what was that driving force towards, I want to be, did you want to be famous?
Yeah.
Was it that? I want to show people who thought I was nothing that actually I am Miss Popular,
I think that was definitely an element. Fame, popularity is the same thing in my head. I still
which we know it isn't.
It isn't. We definitely know it isn't.
Yeah.
But then it was. So I think it was definitely, misconstrued Disney-esque belief about fame.
Yeah.
That I still have to challenge myself on and say, that's not what you'd like. You would not like that life. And I'm like, I would though.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you wouldn't like that life,
I think
Sarah.
I'd love that life, but I'd probably hate it.
No, you'd probably hate it. I think it was driven from that, from a teenage need to be someone. And I still think that's a big driver now.
Why do you only last 11 days at college, uni?
11 weeks.
11 weeks, sorry.
I chose Lincoln University, really far away. Didn't like being away from home. It's basically like school again, but didn't get to go home to my parents. I didn't like drinking. It's like drink culture in university.
I remember it well. Yes,
yeah, like Freshers Week, I was like, oh God, I've got to drink alcohol. And I just didn't like it. You know, I just wanted to be at home. I was doing media. I don't know why, because I don't have a desire to do media, really. Yeah, I didn't like it. It was the first time I disappointed my parents, as far as I'm concerned, because I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
They paid for a whole year of rent, and I was like, I'm going to come home, sorry.
So what did you do then?
I just mucked around for months, and then I had to have a stern talking to by my dad, who said to me, life isn't Disney. I thought you ought to be a Disney princess, but you've got to get in the real world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to get a part-time job. And they were like, why part-time? You're 18 years old. And I was like, because I don't want to work all the time. Like, I want to be part-time. But they weren't having it. They were like, you're going to get a proper job and you're going to start working now. So, yeah, I had to grow up and get a job and become a travel agent and then a recruitment consultant and, you know, all various other jobs that led to mortgages eventually. Yeah.
So mortgages was, you just sort of fell into it?
Yeah.
Like most of us?
Yeah.
Because we all sort of fall into it, don't we?
Yeah. Rob Jupp owned a company.
Yeah.
I was a recruitment consultant and I went to visit his company to find out what they needed to hire. And I walked in and was like, I want to work here. And I came home and said to my boss at the time, which was a brave move. I was like, look, I know this is really awkward and I know I've only been here a few months, but I really want to go for this job myself. She was like, I respect your honesty. I'll chat to Rob and see. And then I had an interview with Rob. He offered me the job. I loved that job. I just loved it. Yeah. But then the credit crunch came. My job went with it. Yeah. But I always had like a fond memory of mortgages and the industry. Like even then, I didn't go to any events or anything yet. I was just an administrator then. One of their first ones, or maybe even their first. But the whole like culture at the company, I loved it. And I think now that is the industry. Like we're all quite huggy and like it's not. It's an office with loads of emotion wrapped around it. Is how I describe the mortgage industry.
Oh, I like that.
And it's special when you're someone like myself. I like the corporate office style stuff, but I love the real emotional like hugs and we used to hug each other in the morning when we got there and I just used to love it. I used to think, oh, this is where I can work. I like this.
So we'll finish off on singing with The Voice. Obviously that was a big one. You've envisaged it. You've walked on stage.
Oh yeah.
You sung. Now I do remember it. I
do remember
that series. Genuinely remember that series.
That's good.
And yes, you got 4 turns. What did that feel like?
Validation for years.
Great word. Validation.
Of rejection. That was the moment. Like that I'd been writing about, waiting for, had in my gut. And you know, I knew it on rehearsals. I knew something was going to happen to me that year. Yeah. I could feel it building through the year. My self-confidence was growing. I was looking after myself. I was talking about the law of attraction. I was teaching Sienna loads about manifestation. And it was all leading to somewhere. I could just feel it building. And I kept saying to people, there's something happening. Like, I'm going to put myself forward for The Voice or something. Something is going to happen this year. I don't know what it is. And obviously got through the different rounds and it was just dreamy, you know, the whole way it was playing out from the first audition to that moment. And when I went on rehearsal, I always knew it was a particular stage because way back when I was 16, a lady, I had a clairvoyant say to me, you're going to be on a stage, there's so many people cheering for you, but you are going to have such a long journey to get yourself there. But when you get there, it's going to be amazing. And she said, but you must never give up and your mum is not going to want this for you. So, and she didn't. And so, but that powered me on. I'm so glad I saw that woman, because every rejection I was like, well, I'm one step closer to that stage. I knew it was going to happen, but I used to cry and be scared that it wouldn't, because I'd think, what if it's never going to happen for me? But as soon as I walked on for the rehearsal, I'll never forget it. They took, because you never see anything, everything's so backstage, and then all of a sudden they said, we're going to just take you so that you're not shocked on the day. And I walked on and I literally cried. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, it's just, this is the stage. And they were like, oh, bless you. And I felt so ready until the day.
Yeah.
And on the day, and I had the same thing when I went on This Morning recently, because that's something I dreamed about. Yeah. On the day, my mind trips out and goes, shit, you are about to do the thing that's a defining moment in your life. Yeah. Everyone's watching. What if you mess it up? What if you let everyone down, Sarah?
Yeah.
What are you going to do if you do this?
That's classic.
And it's so hard there, because in the moment, even though you know it's normal, you genuinely think, what if this is the time that I fuck it up? And this is the time that I, like, my biggest regret in life, you know, had it right there, my opportunity, and I ballsed it up because of X, Y, Z. But thankfully, something did take over. And when I was singing, there were so many thoughts going on in my head, so many thoughts of just, you know, trying to be calm, trying to breathe. I can see Jennifer Hudson's hair. They're not turning. That you've done the highest note of the whole
very high note
song, and they have not turned. What more have you got?
Because obviously we could see their reaction.
Yeah, but I couldn't see anything.
You can't see it,
and I didn't know. I knew the voice was hard. I knew it wasn't like X Factor. You couldn't just have a story. No. It had to be good and it had to be great. And I was like at backstage with loads of people who were so confident. And I remember thinking, when I saw the reds, oh, this is going to be so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And then there was another voice that just came in and said, close your eyes, you have 10 seconds, sing. That's all you have to do. And then I just sang for 10 seconds. And you'll see, if you watch it back now, I've told you, I don't open my eyes at all from then on. It was like close your eyes and just sing. Do not think about anything else. Yeah. And so I did. And my stomach was vibrating with the last note. But I heard the turn. I heard the crowd. I could feel the crowd was behind me the whole time. Yeah. But I didn't understand why they were still red. And I heard the crowd getting wilder. And then I heard the turn. And I heard another one, and I heard another one. And then I opened my eyes and I thought, but she hasn't turned, and she's who I wanted. Yeah. And just as I finished the note, I thought, okay, I've got a turn, I'm through. And again, when you watch it back, you can see it. And I was like, okay, she hasn't turned, that's okay. And then she turned, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And just to see their actual human faces. Yeah. Feel the crowd. It genuinely felt like a dream. Like I genuinely thought, is this happening? It's the most out of body experience. And it was electric. Like there was nothing like it. There has been nothing like it since. And it changed me forever. Like I did the hardest thing, and I did something I knew I was capable of doing and didn't believe I could do. And so many people doubted me along the way. And the best thing of all is Sienna was watching. Yeah. And that was the best thing, because she does remember it. She was 5. My son does not remember it at all, bless him. But my mum and dad and my husband and my daughter saw it firsthand. And it was just, And I remember speaking after. My dad was like, your speaking was just as impressive as your singing, just so you know. Like, I've never heard you speak like that. And I was like, yeah, it just felt so, all of it just came very naturally in that moment. So I just evolved into whoever I was going to become, which is who I'm more now, really.
So there's obviously a whole podcast on just your experiences.
Yeah, I know, I have to be
careful. I'm going to massively fast forward. Yeah. And again, genuinely, I remember when you went out. And I also remember us shouting at the TV. Oh, genuinely going, how the hell did that happen? Yeah, that's weird. So I don't want to dwell on it too much, but that immediate feeling when you've been in this bubble, I assume it's It's like a bubble.
Yeah, it's amazing.
People saying, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Over.
It's done. You're out. You walk.
Yeah.
And then what are the next couple of days like?
Awful. Like that moment when she said her name, it was a physical crash in me. That's how it felt. I thought, no, that's not what she was supposed to say. Like, that wasn't supposed to happen. And that's how the whole room reacted. Like, I shouldn't say that because it makes me sound less humble, but it was a real drama after. will.i.am got on the microphone. He was asking the audience, who thinks Sarah should be staying?
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it?
But that didn't obviously get aired. But you get walked in a different direction if you don't get through. Yeah. Your hair's getting pulled out. Your hair extensions are getting taken out before you've even processed it. They want their stuff back. You're in a tent to get out, and it just feels horrible. Nobody knows what to say to you. Your mum and dad, everyone's so used to walking the other corridor where they're all crowding around these interviews and it's so exciting. It just felt really cold. And
there's no support after
they tried. I mean, they called and said, "Are you okay? How are you doing?" You know, they tried, but it's grief. Like it was grief. Yeah. I was just so, and nobody knew. The worst thing about it was I had to pretend for 3 weeks that I was still second favourite to win. My battle hadn't even aired. So I still had posters all around Lee of me. People were putting £100 bets on for me to win. And I knew I was out. And so I was doing the school run with so many people coming up to me, kids coming up to me with their little posters, and people saying, "Oh, my husband put £100 on you at the weekend."
Oh, God, that's so hard.
And then my battle aired, and then people really thought I'd win because will.i.am said, "Best singer that's ever been on The Voice." Jennifer Hudson said, "You're my favourite voice in the competition." And I'm thinking, well, can't be because you put me out last week. Yeah. So that didn't last long. And it looked like I could win it. And I had to act as if I could, even though I was crying most of the time at home. And I couldn't tell people because it was going to breach contract, but I did tell my closest friends. And then they played me on Lorraine randomly and announced a lifeline. And they called me and said, "Your favourite to be the lifeline. You're very likely to be in the semi-final." And I was like, oh, this is what it's meant to be. This is how I win. I'm going to be the underdog. And now this is how the universe is going to support me because it knows I needed that kick up the bum to get me to appreciate what was happening. So now I'm so ready. Prepared my semi-final song. We need to get you ready. And then they aired out my episode the week before the vote. And I thought, why would they do that? Like, they should have aired me just before the vote. And then they aired on the second week. I've gone through all the things and I still knew I had it on the app vote. And then they played one last contestant and she absolutely smashed it. And I thought, I just knew then, I thought, no, she's going to get it. And she's the last person. So you sort of had it
taken away from you twice.
Yes, twice. And we got the phone call and we were so in contact, all of us. And everybody had their phone call except for me and 2 others. And I was waiting for them to turn up at my house. I was so sure this is not how it's supposed to end for me.
Yeah.
And then they didn't turn up at my house and I got a phone call and I was in the kitchen on my own. And I got the call and I was like, here I am. And they said, "Sarah, I'm so sorry, you were so close." And I literally just fell on the floor. Like, I just was like, this can't be done. And they were like, it's done. Sorry. Take care. We'll call you next week, say how you are. And I was like, my mum turned up with the kids. Sienna had done a poster, my mummy's the lifeline. And I just couldn't even talk. Like, I was just crying and just said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now. Like, it's done. The whole thing's done. And Mum's like, "Do you want me to text everyone?" I was like, "I don't care. I don't know. I don't know what I want. I just want to be on my own." And at the same time, we'd launched the Mortgage Mum, like, company.
Yeah.
And Jamie called me, told him, and he was like, do not let a TV show ruin your life. And I was like, Jamie, this is not a TV show. This is so much more than that. Like, you don't understand. This is not a TV show. This isn't just a one-off thing. This is 16 years of my life. And now I don't know what to do because I've been on TV already and no one's ringing me. I've had millions of views on YouTube and nothing's happening. I can't even go on TV anymore because I've already done it. And he's like, so let's do The Mortgage Mum. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I've got it in me. Like, I just need some time on my own. And he was going on holiday for 2 weeks. And he said, I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks. I'm going to ring you in 2 weeks. You make a decision in that time and tell me what you want to do. But I'm telling you, you are better than this. Like, there is so much more ahead for you. Like, you've got to use it to do good, to do something that you're passionate about. He's like, I know people that are failed singers. It makes them miserable. Like, you're better than that. Give yourself a chance to do something different. And I was like, whatever. You know, and I just thought, you don't understand. Yeah. And a few days before he got back, I got a piece of paper and I was like, what is The Mortgage Mum? Bubble chart. It's flexible working. It's this. How will it work? What would the model look like? Split the commissions. And I'm like, it does seem like a good business idea. And I haven't got anything else to do. And there is people that would benefit. And I don't want to be no one again. And I thought, I don't want to just walk back into Affinity and be a broker that was on The Voice. I don't want that for myself. Like, everybody knows who I am now locally. Everybody is interested. Everybody's going to say, what are you doing next? I don't want to say nothing. I'm going to say, I'm starting a business. That's what I'm doing next. And it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to help women all over the UK. And that became my thing. And so it was driven and born out of grief. Like, it wasn't born out of passion. It was born out of grief.
That's a really, really interesting sentence.
It was.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
But you had that passion that you wanted to do something different in that industry.
Yes.
And you wanted to help.
Yeah, that was there a year
women.
Before The Voice. And that initial idea.
Yeah.
But then the actual
but
making
given it
of
up
it.
like that for pop superstardom.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I was never planning on setting it up as a company. I wanted to bring women into Jamie's business.
Right.
And I would look after them and earn myself a bit more money. I never planned on having my own company because that was overwhelming to me. I was a perfectionist. So to me, I'm like, no. You know, I used to look around Jamie's office and think, how do people do it when there's so much to do all the time?
Yeah.
And here I am in the midst of that exact life. But yeah, I say it to the Mortgage Mum team, or I said it a year ago today, that they healed me. They don't know they did that, but they did. One woman at a time, they healed what had been broken. And that's why I one of our values is lift as you climb. And I said to them, it's so much more than me coming up and taking you with me. Like, you all lifted me and you don't even know it. That I was broken when I started this business and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And you've given me such a purpose. And now I will always give back to you. And that's my new mission. But yeah, I'd love to say, yeah, you know, I just knew it was going to be this great idea. No, that I just needed something.
But that's the point of this. It's really interesting that the path you've taken, so the Mortgage Mum would not probably have been what it is now without that journey.
No.
And without that grief.
No.
And without that determination.
The voice without the voice. Like, it gave me the confidence, but it gave me this like sense of, what have I got to lose? How much worse can it get? Might as well. But Jamie will tell you, those first 6 months, he was dealing with a lot of emotion. We were working with a coach who was aggressive in nature.
Right.
And it used to come out all the time. I used to suddenly go, I can't do this. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't deal with this. This is too stressful. And for years that's happened, where I've got to places and thought, I don't need this. I don't need the stress of this and not being paid as much as I was. And it's not going anywhere. And you know what? I'm meant to be doing something different. I'm meant to be singing. I'm meant to be writing a book about something. Like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. But every time I'd sleep on it, and Jamie would, okay, well, let's talk tomorrow.
Do you still go through that now?
No.
When was the last time?
Last year. Before the awards, before we got everyone together in person. I used to have it still. And then when I saw everybody and saw everyone in real life, not just on Zoom screens, I was like, oh no, I'm right. I'm home. This is where I need to be. And that hasn't left me, thankfully, because this has been a really hard year in the business at times. It has been a tough year. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Jamie's been incredibly patient over the years. But it's because he's my friend as well. So he knows, he watched it. Yeah. He watched it all happen. So yeah, he's had to be patient at times.
So building the business, how many of you are there now?
There's going to be 41 or 42 in the new year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all in?
All in.
All in.
Yeah. So there's 3 support staff in there.
Yeah.
Management. So I think it's 35 brokers.
Right.
Maybe 37. Yeah.
And that's in quite a short space of time.
So people tell me, but I have wild plans to be 60 of us by now. So,
so you're behind target.
Well, we didn't retain everybody.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
You can't retain everyone.
I never accounted for retention.
No.
No. So I had 20 a year for 5 years. I'll have 100 by the end of year 5.
Yeah.
I didn't account for any one of those leaving. And actually in the first 2 years, our retention percentage was lower than what it is now, because we've had to learn obviously really hard lessons about recruitment and who can make it as a broker.
Yeah.
Not everyone can.
And do you take that personally?
I used to. I have definitely progressed with that, because I had one person leave this year who I wasn't expecting. And for the first time, I didn't take it personally. I just was like, okay, you're on your journey. I'm happy to have played a part in it. But at the beginning, yes, because it was my thing. And I used to think, I'm not doing good enough. Otherwise, they'd stay. But at some point, you just can't take on everybody's stuff all the time.
No.
Otherwise, you drown in it. That's where I was. And those were the days that I went, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do it.
So what are your coping mechanisms now? If you say it's been a tough year, you're running a growing business, all of the issues that throws at you.
Yeah. It's a good question. I definitely feel like I've got more resilient over the years, just naturally. I mean, most recently it's saging myself on a bath. I know that sounds like random. It is random. And my husband thinks I'm nuts. Like, came upstairs, the kids going, Mum, it smells of lamb up here.
Smells of lamb.
Because it's sage being burnt. And I'm like, well, Mummy needs to do it. I need some clarity. And I'd got the advice from someone, you need to sage yourself at the end of the day. You're taking on everybody's stuff.
I might try that. I like that.
Yeah, honestly, it was really good. And then I had a bath, and then the clarity comes.
Yeah.
And I genuinely get so much clarity. I've had business speeches come to me in the bath. I grab my phone and voice note it, and I send it to the team that night. And those are the moments that they go, oh, I really needed to hear that. That was so powerful. But it's not always easy, especially because I work in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So everything is wrapped up in my house. And so it's hard to let go of, keep it all separate, really. It's all kind of blends into one. So the sage in the bath's been a good technique recently.
There you go. Sage in the bath.
Sage
That's what you
and
need.
a bath.
And a bath.
Yes. Burn the sage. Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that are really interesting in terms of, so obviously it's a mortgage mum.
Yes.
And obviously, everything we're trying to do in the industry around equality, equity, inclusion, all of that kind of stuff. So most people seem to have gone, brilliant idea, brilliant concept.
Yes.
Obviously, you are the brand you are now. Have you found anyone being negative
Yes.
as well, because obviously, you know, you do hear it sometimes, oh, why isn't there a mortgage dad, for example? Because sometimes the dads do get forgotten, especially nowadays,
Yeah.
when there's a lot more joint parenting going off, and one of the issues with men sometimes is they still feel, and I spoke to someone the other day actually who said, yeah, when I have to do the school run, I just tell my boss that I don't feel well,
Oh,
because
no.
I'm too scared to actually, as a man, say, well, actually, I've got to do parental duties.
Wow.
which is
That's
quite quite interesting. So how have you coped with the positives and the negatives?
Yeah. I was really surprised by the positives. It took me less time to break the industry as a concept than I thought it would. Thanks to people like yourself, to be honest, because that first podcast led to so many other things where people got to hear what I had to say. And that's half the battle, really, is getting yourself in the room. So I'm always grateful for that. But people were far more open and welcoming to the idea than I thought. But even from the first year, I remember going to the park and a man coming up to me in the park when I was with my kids and saying, "Are you going to open the Mortgage Dad?" And I said, "Well, actually, I bought the name anyway, just in case I need the Mortgage Dad."
Right, okay.
And I said, "So I'm prepared to do it if it's needed." And I said, "But I don't think it's needed. I think there's lots of places that men can go to that will suit them here. I'm trying to create a space that isn't there." And he was like, "Right, yeah, because I'm thinking about doing my CMAT." And I was like, "Look, if you ever need any advice, I'll tell you. There's so many places you can go.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll be fine."
Yeah.
And he never needed me. So, you know, that's just an example. But yes, recently, I think the more successful we've become, sadly, the more criticism we've received, me particularly. And that question is coming up a lot. There was a whole thread in a broker forum recently saying, do you think the mortgage mum hire men? Or I think stick on a dress and a wig, you might be all right. Tell them you're non-binary, maybe they'll let you in, and all of these comments. And I thought, you're completely missing the point. Like, I'm not trying to elbow men out of the way. And the concept of equity versus equality is the best way to describe what we're here to do. And I always say, I hope there's a time we don't need the mortgage mum anymore. And we can just sit equally with everybody else. And it's not about it's not about what the messaging is. It's just that we're a really good mortgage firm, same as everyone else. But right now, and when I started the business, there wasn't many women in the sector. And if they were having to work a certain way for them to do well. And they were having to maybe conceal parts of their lives or not have those parts of their lives in order for them to climb the ladder. And I believed that there was another way and that you didn't have to apologise for being a parent. And that was by accident. It was genuine. I used to do live videos and hide my motherhood all the time. And then accidentally things would happen, like the Amazon driver would come or the school would call or my toddler would come out of his nap and I'd be in a live video and say, "I'm so sorry, Joshua's just woke up, I'll be 2 seconds," and he'd be on my hip. And that's how my singing videos started, because people loved it. They were like, "Hello, this is a real human being."
Normality.
And we really love it. Like, keep your son in the shots. So then I'd do pushing on the swing, talking about my extension being done. And so that's when I started to realise people don't want to subscribe to this anymore. Like, there's room for me to start doing this. So now it's about reminding people that then and still now, we're not all standing on the same playing field still. And we needed this space to add to awareness of the issue, that there needed to be more women here. They need to be given more room, firstly, to be able to grow a business if they're a parent, because their lives look different and childcare is not cheap. So it's not as simple as just paying for a nanny so that you can, do your job. There is another way. And I think we're getting there now. So hopefully, we've made so many advancements, haven't we, in the industry with diversity and inclusion, particularly in the last year. So
we've started the journey.
Yeah.
We've made some advancements, and the stuff you're doing is great, and it really helps. And people for the first time, I think, can see thought leaders and leaders that look like them and have the same values as them, and their lives mirror, well, your lives mirror what their life is,
which is amazing.
Which is good. But there's a lot of work to go.
Exactly, and until then, it's not that we wouldn't take on men. There's men that we've interviewed over the years, but to be honest, the only men that come to us to want to be interviewed have had interviews with everyone else and don't get hired.
Right.
And they say, "Oh, I just want to get to CAS and work from home." Yeah. That's not enough.
I'm still waiting for my feedback on my CV. I think.
But I do think there may be a man, I'm looking for the right guy at some point. Like, it would be great. Can you imagine? It will silence everybody. Yeah. First man enters the mortgage mum. But look, Jamie runs the business with me. He's a guy. We have that male voice around the room. We're not underrepresenting in that area, but it's very clear there's lots of women that want and need that space, and it helps their family lives too. And
you're a fabulous marketeer in terms of what you do on social, obviously.
Thank you.
I constantly say to my team, look at what the mortgage mum are doing. We need to do that.
Why
aren't we doing that? But again, I guess, and I found it in my career is, do you get times where people go, oh, it's a mortgage mum again?
I'm sure.
Oh my God, she's bloody everywhere.
Yeah.
And that, how do you deal with that?
Yes, I've had that a lot recently. We've landed TV this year, which was a goal of mine. Unsurprisingly, now you know my story. I just translated it into the world of mortgages.
Exactly.
Same thing. Validation equals TV to me. So I wanted to get on this morning because to me, I was like, that is validation for me. I didn't get on there on The Voice on this morning, and I wanted to take my mum to this morning because that's one of her life dreams. And so I was like, oh, maybe I could do it with the mortgages. And for years I've tried to, hi, I own a company. It'd be really good to talk about how I've gone from The Voice. No, they just don't reply. But yeah, unfortunately, and they prepared me. This morning said, as well as any other TV thing, we're very hot for people to talk on Twitter about you after. Are you prepared for that? The Voice were the same.
That's interesting.
They said, are you happy to do it? Because it's a very contentious topic. People have very strong opinions. I said, yes, I've had media training in The Voice. I know not to read it and not to reply. That was the key message. Never write, never reply, and try not to read it if you can. But one of my team called me a couple of weeks ago and said, Sarah, I don't know how to say this, but you're being spoken about loads on this broker forum and it's awful. And I was like, okay, well, leave them to it. I'm not going to give it any energy. I'm not even going to read it. And they were like, yeah, you might want to read it though, because they're talking about reporting you to the FCA and it's making us all really uncomfortable. We want to jump in and say something. I was like, do not say anything. Just leave them to it. Don't say anything.
Yeah, definitely.
And an hour later I looked. I came off the phone. I thought, I'm not going to look.
I wouldn't have lasted an hour.
I'm not going to look. Yeah. I don't need to see that. I'm too busy to see that. It's not going to help me. And then I looked and it was a still of my face and people saying things like they wanted to throw things at the TV, that I'd made them so angry, that I was pissing them off, that I make it look so easy and glossy and it's anything but. Do I actually, would the FCA be happy with what I've said? Should we report her? And then that's led to is her business even, does it even have equality in the Equalities Acts? Isn't she just... What would they do if we set up a business just for men? How would they cope then?
And that was going to be my point.
Yeah.
So I have had certain abuse, blah, blah, blah.
I'm surprised.
One said it was me and the BBC in league to try and artificially grow house prices. It was a massive thread. I had loads of things about that.
Oh my
gosh. That was a few years ago, which got really out of hand. But that's quite rare. And my point is, if you were male, do you think you'd have had that same vitriol?
Maybe not.
Because it's only recently that we've had lots of different spokespeople in the industry. Before, there were probably 2 or 3 of us. There were always on everything.
Yeah.
So thanks for taking all my stuff.
You're still everywhere. You're still everywhere.
No, I want it. I want as many voices as possible, especially diverse ones. But yeah, I didn't see that same. That's really surprised me.
It's personal, more personal if you're a woman.
But you know it's jealousy, right?
You do know that, or that it's, you know, their stuff, ultimately, like their lack of, you know, being able to show anything but kindness is their stuff. Equally, on a good day, I'm fine about it. But I had some bad days where just things happened in the business like it does when you're a boss.
Yeah.
You know, people had stuff going on and I felt like it was coming from all sides. And I just thought, this isn't very fair on me. Like I'm heavily, you know, I'm pregnant as well. And I thought, come on, guys, like, can you all just appreciate, like my children said it best. I came off, I think I finished at 8:30 and I'd had just a real day of it. Because people are scared. And unfortunately, you're the parent in that situation. And so they bring their fears to you and it's hard sometimes. And I came downstairs and I'd been crying because it all just got to me. And the kids said, Mum, get in our bed. And they were like, don't they know that you're making a baby at the moment? And I said, yeah, they do, darlings. But Mummy's job's to look after lots of people. And that's just what Mummy's here to do. And they said, yeah, but they should be looking after you. You're the one that needs looking after at the moment. And I said, I know it doesn't quite work like that. It's just the way it is. Mummy's the one that looks after them. And they were like, oh, come in with us. We'll look after you. And I just thought, yeah, everybody needs reminding that I am only human and that I also need supporting sometimes. So then it got to me because then I just felt like, who are all these people and what, you know, they don't realise I'm a mum and a person at the end of it all. And that it's not okay for me to be feeling like this. So I did call it out. I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I went against my advice of leave it, don't acknowledge it. But yeah, I think women in general, you see it happen all the time. Like women get boosted up, and then it's a media pattern and thankfully this isn't the public, this is people in the industry, which I prefer, to be honest, than it to be on Twitter from a load of people that don't know me at all. Because I can say it's jealousy, whereas if it was just all over Twitter, I'd think, well, people genuinely hate me. Like they don't, you know, I'm genuinely not good at this. But it happens time and again, like it's a pattern. They get raised up. You know, you look at Britney, any of these amazingly successful female celebrities have had this, I can't even liken what I've had to what they've had to endure. Like Caroline Flack is a major example here.
Yeah.
And they tear them to absolute shreds. I'm watching the Harry and Meghan thing and it's shocking.
I haven't watched that yet. Yeah.
It's shocking. I know people all have an opinion on her, but it's bad how people just accept that that's the way it is. It doesn't have to be. So yeah, people should know better. Certainly in our industry, we're such a good industry.
Yeah,
I would have expected more, really, from people in it. And it wasn't just men; it was women and men joining in. So it isn't necessarily a gender thing. It's just a thing.
It is difficult when you put your head above the parapet. You expect. And it's also it's a human nature thing. I was going to say it's a British thing, but it's an American thing. It's an everything thing, isn't it?
It is,
you put your head above the parapet. Does it make you think that actually there is such thing as overexposure and actually I'll tame down a bit?
It makes me the opposite, where I really dispute people that say, well, if you're famous, it's part of the package. Like my husband said it to me earlier and didn't realise it was going to wake a beast. And I was like... That's ridiculous. And he's like, I'm just saying, he wasn't talking about me. He was talking about, a celebrity. Yeah. But he was like, if you want to be famous, that's what you sign up for. I went, no, absolutely not. Yeah. Everybody that accepts that means it will continue. If people want to be known for something, they don't sign up for all of the abuse. Yeah. They don't sign up to have no privacy. And there still should be some human element. I said there needs to be a little bit more control around it. But there's a fabulous speaker, Brené Brown. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. And she speaks about, she's the most amazing influential speaker. You have to listen to her if you haven't before. But she speaks about the man in the arena, or the woman in the arena in her case, and how you can't take notice of anyone else except the people that are doing what you're doing in the arena, because it takes so much guts just to put yourself there. And it's so easy to sit on the sides and throw stuff at the person in the arena. And
it's easy.
It's so easy. But you shouldn't listen to that. You should only listen to the people who are doing what you're doing. It's people like yourself, because otherwise you don't understand. But it is, we're only human. And yeah, on a bad day, it does affect me. I'm not going to say it doesn't. Is there such a thing as overexposure? No, because I don't want it to change who I think there's more good that comes of exposure than bad. And I disagree with people that say it's just part of the package. It shouldn't have to be. And if we just accept it and don't try and change it, expose it, it will just continue. We need people.
Totally agree. That's a really good way of looking at it. I could talk to you for days.
I could talk endlessly just in general, but
I think you could talk for days.
Good, I did try and warn you.
But I've got 2 questions left.
Okay.
So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
One of my coaches on The Voice said, trust the process. And I thought it was absolutely rubbish at the time. I was like, no, I can't trust the process because I don't know what's going to happen. But I think it's so true. Trust the process, because even when you're in the darker moments, there'll be something that comes of it that later you might sit on a podcast and reflect on. And it all forms part of the whole bigger picture. So, yeah, whatever stage of the process you're in, trust it.
I like that. Like that a lot. And I don't know where I got this even question from, actually, but I am going to ask everyone here. If you could meet anyone in history, alive or dead, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Oh, that's such a good question. The person I most want to meet myself is Oprah, but I don't know what I'd ask her.
Why Oprah?
She's inspired me so much over the years, and many others. And I think similar things to her, I just don't say them. And I'm like, when did you start saying these things in the way that you say them that then get turned into mini reels? Because it's remarkable. But when did she start doing that? Like, what was the moment you knew you had enough weight to you that you could say these profound life lessons without people going, what do you know? Sorry, what do you actually know to be able to say these things? And I think that's what I'm chasing myself, is I want to have enough substance to me that I can start talking about the things I actually think about, which relates to everybody. It doesn't just relate to mortgages.
See, I have a different view of that.
Oh, go on.
I think you have that now. I think we all have that now.
Yeah.
You don't need weight behind you to say things that you really want to say and that can help someone.
That's so interesting.
I really don't.
It's probably a lack of enoughness, isn't it?
You don't need weight. It's just, you just need to say it and put it out there. And if you help one person, you've changed the world.
Maybe I'll take that then. Maybe I needed to hear that.
There you go.
So it was a good question. I've loved it.
Thank you so much. I've really,
it.
really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you are watching, it's the first time we've done it, a video. If you like this, please pass it on to others. Leave a rating, leave a review. I do have another 15 people lined up over the next 12 months or so, maybe a few more actually, from all walks of life. And I'm sure you'll be interested to hear their journeys and where they've come from and the paths they've taken to get where they are today. So this is the Pathfinder podcast. May the path you take be the right one for you.